Welcome to the meeting of the Oklahoma Aeronautics Commission of March 8th, 2023. The meeting notice was posted according to the requirements of the Open Meeting Act. The meeting will come to order. Please call the roll.
First Congressional District Commissioner Seth Phillips.
Here.
Second Congressional District Commissioner Kevin Potter. Third Congressional District Commissioner Charles Ortega.
Here.
Fourth Congressional District Commissioner Chairwoman Lindy Ritz.
Here.
Fifth Congressional District Commissioner Blake Rainey.
Here.
At-large Commissioner Jim Putnam.
Here.
At-large Commissioner Jerry Hunter.
Here.
Thank you.
Next order of business is approval of the minutes. The draft of the minutes is in your packet. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega.
Aye.
Chairwoman Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Thank you.
The next order of business is recognition of service.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Hope everyone's doing well on this wonderful March 8th Wednesday morning. We have with us today a former commissioner that served the Aeronautics Commission dutifully for almost 13 years. Commissioner David Conway rolled off and served at the end of December as his last commission meeting. And so I'd like to bring Commissioner Conway up. And Commissioner Conway, for those of you that don't know, was been involved in aviation aerospace for many, many years in the Air Force, and retired after 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And then went on to serve Southeastern Oklahoma State University as their Director of Aviation for many, many years, where he came to us and really helped us spearhead some of those aviation education efforts as to where they've been today. And so just wanted to bring Commissioner back and say thank you. Thank you for your service to aviation aerospace in this state. Thank you specifically for your passion for aviation aerospace education and helping us. And we do have a token of our appreciation, and we may have to have a dolly to take it out. So
Handy dandy.
we'll, if we want to take a picture, and yes. And let's do one here in front of the commissioners. It's close to being very heavy.
Thank you.
Before we get down here, if you want to say anything, feel free.
Sure. Never at a loss for words. Well, it's really different looking this way than looking, this is more comfortable. But, 13, 14 years on the commission, and I've seen a tremendous amount of changes. Not in just faces, but even in the director, in the staff. Vic Bird is commended for mentoring you, and the transition was just amazing. It was so smooth that the staff that you've created, that Vic created, has just done an outstanding job. And so as a commissioner, it was really easy because you did so much work. I was just so proud to be on the commission. And so I thank, Governor Henry and Fallon for appointing me to the commission. And I really enjoyed what we did. But one of the main things I saw was, the hangar project, the terminal building project, all the different projects across the state that the commission did to benefit aviation, and we're much, much better for it. But the biggest thing is, and Paula's kind of the last, I guess, or the newest, but our education program is just outstanding. When I started years ago on this commission, I think we were at $50,000 or $60,000. What was the last one? 400?
451.
451, and that's amazing. So really, we're promoting aviation to the state, not just through the concrete, the buildings, but to the future. So thank you very much for allowing me to be on the commission, and thank you, and I'll shut up.
Well, Dave, before you take off,
What?
I would just like to say on behalf, and I'm sure other people have their own thoughts, but you've been a tremendous asset. Truly hate to see you go. And from a personal standpoint, we go way back.
We do.
And I've learned a tremendous amount from you.
Great.
Best
Thank
of
you.
luck.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, feel free to take it if you can take it with you.
Throw his back out.
I've got to tell you one thing, I've got to be careful if I plug this in, because I live just off the extended center line of the airport.
Oh, my. Oh,
I don't know
dear.
what's going to happen.
I love it. Thank you. Next item, legislative, congressional, and regulatory update. Director, please.
It's been a fast-paced month and a half, a little less than a month and a half at the Capitol, and I know Representative Ortega, he probably hears this or heard this during his time in the legislature, that every year it seemed like it was going faster. And I think that's just a fun thing to say, but I do legitimately think this year it's different. There's something about the building that's going a little quicker, and I mean, great, everything for us has been pretty successful. But I will say that Sandra and I have been working our tails off trying to keep up and keep track with all the bills and everything having been done. And I'm very grateful it's going fast, because everything that we were really concerned about happened before deadline week. So that allowed me to go on my trip to D.C. last week for our National Legislative Conference for NASEO. So a couple updates on our kind of 4 bills that we're shepherding, watching closely. Senate Bill 773, that's the Advanced Air Mobility and UAS changes to the existing language in Title III, and also giving us a revolving fund for UAS and AAM investment. That is passed off floor with title on, off the Senate floor with title on. And that's probably the other thing, is we had 3 of our bills pass off the floor before the committee deadline even passed. So that was pretty monumental, and something that we've never seen. I think we've had maybe 1 bill that happened to make it to floor hearing before the end of the committee deadline. But that one has passed off the floor and is headed over to the House now for committee assignments in a couple of weeks. Senate Bill 782, which is the name change for the agency, also passed off the floor with title on and is moved over to the House. Senate Bill 930, which is the Aerospace program, and that's our education effort that is spearheading supercharging our educational efforts that you just heard about. That also has moved off the Senate floor and moved over to the House. Senate Bill 942, which is the engine test cell bill, which is asking for a new program to invest in engine test cells to help spearhead some of our MRO companies around the state. That has passed out of committee, and I believe is going to be heard on the floor, Senate floor, either today or maybe tomorrow. So we have a couple more weeks to have that one be heard. That one, of course, is title off because it does have a fiscal impact, and it will likely remain title off until the budget negotiations happen later into April into May. So overall, we're pretty pleased where the bills have gone. There hasn't been a whole lot of contentious aviation bills out there. All the conversations that Sandra or I have had have been positive. Of course, there's a lot of new faces for us to interact with at the Capitol. I believe over 40 freshmen between both sides. And that's always a challenge, trying to get people up to speed on aviation aerospace. But overall, it's going to be good. And of course, I don't want to steal Michelle's thunder, but we'll be looking forward to our big day at the Capitol here coming up in a couple of weeks. I will say on the congressional and regulatory front, I was just in D.C. Last week. And of course, the topic of conversation was FAA reauthorization. As we all know, the 5-year package is coming to an end at the end of this federal fiscal year. And right now, the committees of jurisdiction, the Commerce Committee on the Senate side and the T&I Committee on the House side are all looking for members' interested comments and desires in the FAA reauthorization package. And so it was a perfect timing for me to be in D.C. It's also here in the next couple of weeks going to be the deadline to request congressionally designated spending or community project funding requests, commonly known as earmarks, for various airport projects. And we have used earmarks in the last couple of years to our benefit to do projects that normally we traditionally couldn't do from the normal course of business. And so that's the way we're looking at earmarks, is this is an extension of our airport construction program to do some of those more difficult projects that us as a staff can't bring to FAA because they may not rank as high or for some other complexity. And so if Congress can direct FAA that you shall spend this amount of money to go do this project, that's been really helpful. And so working through both our reauthorization priorities as well as some of those CDS requests for airport projects across the state. Fun times up in DC, and looking forward to our next visit. But that's the conclusion of my legislative congressional regulatory update. I will stand for any questions, though.
You mentioned something about a renaming, Bill?
Yes. So Senator Racino had proposed a bill to rename the organization, and I think we had mentioned this here at a January meeting. I know you weren't. You're here. Hopefully, you're feeling better.
Yeah, thank you.
Hopefully, you running a marathon next week, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And so moving us to Department of instead of Aeronautics Commission. You guys will still be the commission, but the organization, the agency name will be Department of Aerospace and Aeronautics.
Shazam.
It's been an effort from our part that, we've had a little bit of recognition challenge as to what is a commission. When we go out to a trade show or talking to somebody outside a state government circle, commission, is that a private trade association? Is that a 501c nonprofit? And so department, through some of the conversations that Senator Racino had and myself as well, was most closely associated with a governmental entity. And so that's the name change that we're looking at. Not changing any duties or responsibilities, just purely a name change.
Okay,
Any other
thank you.
questions, comments? Okay. Next item is financial report. Chris?
Morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Starting out with the financial summary document. As of February 28th, the Commission had an ending cash balance of $13.9 million, with encumbrances totaling about $6.6 million. Outstanding reimbursements owed to the agency total about $757,000. The amount of remaining expenditures in the airport construction program that could be incurred this fiscal year totals $4.2 million, of course, provided that those grants are approved. This leaves us with an expected available cash balance of $6.4 million. And I will note that's higher than what we're used to seeing typically. That number should come down next month after Nick presents some of the items later on in the meeting that he will be
Till
bringing
Nick
forth.
spends it.
Sure. And then finally, the total fiscal year-to-date expenditures is $5.4 million as of the end of February. Moving on to the revenue, total statutory revenue collected for the month of January was $1.6 million, and the total collection for February is shown as $237,000. That is not complete. Tax Commission has not posted. Some of the final revenue numbers should come in later this afternoon, so that number should increase a little bit, but not substantially. So the total revenue collected through February of this fiscal year stands at $6.8 million, which compares to $3.9 million for the same time frame last year. So we're still up about 76% year over year as far as our revenue. And then finally, on the 3-year average, you'll see that our statutory revenue collected is up about $3.6 million more than what our 3-year average is. So feel like I sound like a broken record, good record at that, but we're still doing very well financially with revenue. Happy to answer any questions.
This is all from excise taxes and aircraft?
Aircraft excise tax is up about 84% year over year. Registration fees are up about 55%, I believe. So yeah,
Wow.
those are the two primary drivers.
That's great. Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you. Next item, Progressing Rural Economic Prosperity Prep Fund update. Easy for me to say, go ahead.
We at the state level have become very much enamored with acronyms. And I will say we don't even touch the federal level. It seems like every time I see another bill, the federal government and those DC staffers come up with a new acronym. It's just amazing what they can I just don't have that creative spirit in my mind as to how they can create some of those acronyms. But we're doing our best here in Oklahoma, and so PrEP, as we've discussed in years past, or in meetings past, is moving forward. We're constantly having meetings with our 4 mega projects: Tulsa International, Will Rogers World Airport, MRO hangar, the cargo effort down at the Ardmore Municipal Airport, and then improving the Woodward Airport Industrial Air Park. And so you'll see on a few later agenda items, and Nick will talk about a few things that we're finally going to be approving some potential expenditures that we're bringing before you to start some of the engineering and design studies on a few of those projects. And of course, with the PrEP, outside of the 4 mega projects, we had $14 million of hangar project funding. And so you'll see a majority of that money being added to the ACP on item 9 today. And then we have $4 million for our commercial air service incentive program. And I've been talking with both the directors of Tulsa International and Will Rogers as to what their favorite and most important route would be to add to their repertoire at Tulsa and Will Rogers. And of course, I think we're looking to go to the coasts. There's been some discussions about international flights down to Central South America, maybe up to Canada. And so we're hoping to be able to put that $4 million to use. Of course, we've all seen with the airlines, it's certainly not an easy time to be building new routes with the pilot shortage, the ground worker shortage, flight attendant shortage, maintenance shortage, and really just a shortage of equipment. I think I was reading an article where United is getting 3 new airplanes a week for the rest of the year. And obviously that's not going to be all new growth. Some of that will be replacement growth for some existing airplanes that are going to go to the boneyard. But I think hopefully by the end of 2023, regardless of this $4 million, we'll see a majority of the routes that Oklahoma City and Tulsa had pre-pandemic come back. Of course, I know there's San Francisco is top of mind for everybody right now for Oklahoma City and Tulsa. They really want to see that. Oklahoma City wants to see San Francisco come back, and Tulsa wants to see San Francisco added to their network. And that's just a struggle because San Francisco is your connection to the Asian market, and Asian travel demand is not really high right now. And so that's one of the struggles that we're having trying to get to the West Coast. And so I think PrEP overall, I've heard rumors about maybe a PrEP 2.0 this year. I don't know if aviation is going to get anything out of that, but I certainly know that we are excited about putting some shovels in the ground in the first round of PrEP and getting some of those projects moving and turning some dirt and seeing some construction this summer. So looking forward to that opportunity, and of course we'll be reporting all this information to the legislature on a quarterly basis so that they can keep track and ensure that we are spending these dollars as wisely and efficiently and effectively as possible. So with that, Madam Chair, Commissioners, I'll stand for any questions, and I think that might be one of the last, maybe not the last, but one of the last speaking items I'll have for today. So light on my part.
Questions, comments? Okay. Next up is Nick Young. Talk about fiscal year 2023 to 2027, 5-year airport construction program.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. So I have a few items on the agenda regarding the ACP. They're broken out a little bit in a way that we felt made the most sense to keep everything straight. The first 2 will be regarding the current 2023 to 2027 5-year airport construction program. So this first item is to make some amendments for the fiscal year 2023 portion of the existing ACP to add or modify the amounts to some of these items given some recent changes that have occurred. So at this first project at Broken Bow Municipal, this would be adding a project to install new 100 low-lead self-serve fuel. I believe they're looking for a 6,000-gallon tank out here. And with our updated rules allowing us to participate in up to a 50% cost share with fuel projects, we're looking to assist them with this project to get them some fuel service down there. They do have some additional traffic that's come through the past few years to take in all the good things down there in the southeastern part of the state. But as we know, whenever you aren't able to fuel up the aircraft that come in, then you're not able to really take in any good revenue from those the services that you could offer there. So we are looking to partner with them at a 50% cost share, total cost of $400,000, our share being half of that at $200,000 for this project. At Claremore Regional, this is simply to update the costs shares on this with the updated hangar program rules, allowing us to go up to 40% of the total project cost on that, rather than the 30 with the $1 million cap previously. So we've simply updated the commission share to the full 40% on this project for anticipated about $458,000 of the $1.2 million project cost anticipated out there. Again, this is just high-level engineering costs estimates right now. As we go through with the design and that, obviously, we'll massage that and bring the updated numbers to you guys. At CE Page, this is another fuel program fuel system that we would like to add to the program. As you can see with this one, our share is a little bit less than the 50% because they're anticipating going forward with this with an FAA grant. So we'd simply be partnering with that to help cover the gap. This is, I believe, a 12,000-gallon system they're looking to get there at CE Page to get some self-serve fuel out there and really take in some revenue from the increase in traffic that they've seen here recently out in the area, or the ones that have been looking for different places in the area to stop and fill up. I mean, obviously there's several different options out there, but especially being right there as part of the metro area, we want to ensure that we're capturing what they're able to and partnering with this project. $142,000 anticipated on the commission share of that and partnering with the FAA grant. The next project would be updating the pricing out here at El Reno Regional. This rehabilitation project will also include an update in their lighting. They've had significant issues with their lighting system out there over the past couple years now. And so the FAA share of the $774,000 that you see there would be to address the lighting issue. And then the $570,000 portion from OAC would be to address the pavement. Total project cost anticipated about $1.5 million between the two. And then obviously we'll move that on down the road as we get ready with the FAA grants and all that type of thing. So that's the current anticipated amounts. Again, just trying to update the pricing there so that we have a better idea of what to anticipate coming on down the road as we get closer with that. Also at El Reno, updating the price that we anticipate spending for the terminal building project out there, upping our portion to $1 million instead of the $500,000 project cost share that we had previously. Same thing at McAllister Regional Airport, again, just updating the cost to the full cost share that we're allowed. And again, as they go through the design process, we'll have a better idea of what we anticipate those full project costs to look like as we move down the road. Again, just trying to show in our ACP as best a cost as we know as we move along down the road. At Okemah Municipal Airport, this is basically splitting an existing project that we have in the ACP into two different projects. The first one here being for the box and T hangars that they would like to build out there. This is something that we selected as part of our first round of hangar project funding. Unfortunately, about that same time, they had an issue with their water treatment facility, and that took priority. And so obviously with the financing that they had to take out there for that project, the dollars and cents didn't quite make sense. So we're still working and meeting with them regularly as they move forward with that project. I think they're still waiting to bid that fully out. So once they know what those numbers look like, we're looking to try to move forward with that as fast as we can with them, because really at Okemah, our goal is to get them to 10 based aircraft as soon as we can, the next snapshot being December of this year. And so we obviously want to get them classified in the FAA system so that they can get their non-primary entitlement funding flowing out there so that then they can self-sustain with that and continue to build out. As we know, this airport's come a long way. Relocated from a grass strip to a new grass strip, now fully paved, and has some good parking area. They have a lot of great interest out there, and they really have a community partner out there that's really been trying to drive this for them. They have a great community champion. What we're trying to do with this is to break out the hangar portion here. As you can see, about $1.1 million total project cost to get them enough room for a full 10 based aircraft there. One note I will make, I did have a typo here. Instead, I have this still at the 60% level. We'd be looking to do the full 70% loan option with Okemah out here. So that would be $770,000 commission, $330,000 local, and that's a 70% loan over 10 years. Then the next project is breaking out the actual pavement portion of that. And so this would be, the idea is if they are able to move forward with just the pavement portion, then they could have, because this does include some earthwork that's necessary. As you can actually see in that picture, you can see where the drainage area runs right now, right through the area that we really need to be putting this pavement. So this would be to address the dirt work issues, get the drainage running where it needs to go, and then be able to build out those pavement sections so that then private entities could come in, build their hangars, do a land lease, and still get them to 10 based aircraft again. as expeditiously as we can, because there's a lot of great interest in that area. They do have folks that have been asking, but they don't want to pay for those initial, as you know, you don't want to have to pay for, those things to actually be able to then pay for what you're wanting. So we're just trying to help them along the road. They do have some great interest that's going on out there. It's just trying to get all the dominoes to fall so that we can take good strides into being able to bring them to the Okemah area. And not just to bring them from other areas in Oklahoma either. There are some others that, across the border to the east that have been interested in that area for different reasons. And so we just want to make sure that we're both collecting the aviation interest itself for the recreational side, but also trying to drive Okemah may not be seeming like a good economic driver, but they have a lot of good industry that's going on out there, and a lot of folks that do want to fly in and do some business in the area, whether it's in Okemah or even just some of those nearby surrounding areas. So a cost share on that, 95.5 standard grant on that for a total of $700,000. That's what we're anticipating breaking that out into, and that's based off of the most recent estimates that we received from the airport's engineer. Moving on to Ponca City Regional Airport, this is just to update our cost share to $1 million, and also the total project cost anticipated to be somewhere around the $4 million area. Obviously, they need some space to keep Enrique's out there, and so that's a little bit more floor space than we see with some of these others. And so that as we, again, keep on going down the road with design, we'll see what that shapes up to, but wanted to anticipate, given their square footage that they're going after, that we anticipate somewhere around a $4 million project cost there. At South Grand Lake, this is just to update our hangar program cost up to the 40%, up to the $170,000 for their 60 by 60 hangar they're looking to get out there. We do anticipate those bids to come in sometime here in the next couple months, so we can get moving on that, and we'll update the total project cost based on those bids once we get those in, and bring that to you for approval in the coming months. So again, just upping our portion to $170,000. At Stillwater Regional Airport, same concept here. They do have it down for the loan option, so this is moving that up to 70% of the loan for that anticipated now $2.5 million hangar for this project. This is to take place kind of that old OSU Flight Center. Sorry, OU's on the brain. I'm a Sooner grad, so I married one of those cowgirls, but. So, with this one, basically looking to utilize the space now that they have the new flight center up there, trying to really bring in some good business and corporate traffic in that area, and really build out that area so that they can take use of that good apron space that they have at that old OSU Flight Center over there, and really build that out to try to help separate the commercial traffic from the GA traffic. Same concept there with the terminal project that they're working on to relocate that a little bit to ensure that their site is up to compliance and they don't run into a bunch of issues in the long run in separating those two different, clientele bases. At Ardmore Municipal Airport, as you can tell, we've gone back to the A's, and that's for good reason. This is going back to those prep projects, since these are a little bit more unique. Just wanted to tack them in at the end. So this first one here that we're looking to add to the current year of the ACP, this is in support of existing project for Taxiway Echo. It's been an ongoing project that we've been working for. But since that particular project's not scheduled in the current year, we want to make sure that we scheduled the engineering study in this year, and then so that here in a few items, Director Arties can come request that approval. But this is to move forward with the project engineering study for Taxiway Echo, and then also looking to come up with a game plan for the entirety of the prep funds, prioritize it, get some initial cost estimates to get a full plan on that as part of the study as well. So anticipated cost of that is $100,000, be fully funded by those prep funds that were allocated to Ardmore. And the last project here I have to talk about, a similar concept out there in West Woodward. Again, the terminal building is already in the airport construction program, just not in the current year, and so we're looking to move forward with the design phase of the terminal building at just shy of $310,000 on that. To get that built out, obviously you have some design and architectural, a lot of things that go into the front end of that. And so looking to move that forward, or get that added to the current year in fiscal year 2023 so that we can get that design moving ahead and be able to utilize those TREP funds for that. And so with that, that's the first part of my three-part series on the ACP. And I recommend inclusion to the current year for the fiscal year 2023. And I stand for any questions that you have.
So we're going to roll 8 and 9 together and vote?
So this one would be to, the reason that we did it separately is because we have the hangar and then we had
Right.
these. And so, obviously, I defer to you, but the intention would be to go ahead and approve these since
Okay.
and then since the next ones are just the hangar projects, that way we do those all at once.
Okay, okay. Any comments? Questions? Call the roll. I'm getting ahead of myself. Moved and seconded. Call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega.
Aye.
Chairwoman Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And now for the second part. And so the reason, again, since those were all one fiscal year and we just wanted to separate them out that way. For this one, this is going to be for all of our hangar projects. This is our most recent round via the Prep Fund hangar projects. And so these, the way that you'll see these on here, you'll see the airport name, the cost there, as we did the last time around, is just the OAC portion of that cost. And so all of these are grants, so all of these are going to be at the 40% of the total project cost, and then the hangar size. Some of these, the way that I listed it, because some have office space, some don't, I just listed the full hangar size, and I'll note whether or not it has some hangar or some office space added to it. So with Bartlesville, that's our first example here. It's 130 by 120 box hangar. The overall layout of that's 130 by 150, because it does have some extra office space that will be included in that. Total project cost in that is at $1.7 million. The intention is to open up the north side of the airport into the industrial park complex that they're working on building out. They're going through a planning phase right now on how to see that through. They've done some apron expansion, as you'll see in another presentation upcoming. You'll have I have a diagram that'll show the taxi lane project that we're pursuing, and this will be in a partnership with that to open up that entire northeast side of the airport out there. And so that's a $1.7 million OAC portion for that grant. For that hangar. At Boise City Airport, they're seeking a 10-unit T hangar out there to keep their based aircraft count up. Our portion of that anticipated to be about $320,000 on a grant. Carnegie Municipal, same concept out there, except they're going the 450 by 50 box hangar route. That is an up to amount, because as we know with some of these smaller communities, going through and getting everything passed through with the city budgets and trying to get as far as you can, sometimes you come up against some, well, we can do 2, but we can't do 4. We can do 3, but we can't do 4. And so for these that are on the cusp, we want to make sure that they have enough space whenever they have rollover, that we can have, instead of just having 9 to 10 based aircraft, if we can keep them at, 10, 11, 12, whenever registrations go out or you have to work through that process with FAA, we are keeping the active based aircraft count according to the FAA guidelines so that we then don't drop out of that classified status. Chickasha Municipal Airport, this is requesting a $505,000-ish grant there for 2 75 by 75 box hangars down there. Theirs are getting a little long in the tooth and don't necessarily hold water off anymore, and for the type of traffic that they have some demand for and some requests for, they're just looking to do a couple of the bigger box hangars like that to accommodate some of those aircraft that are looking to get out of where they are and find a new space there at the airport. At El Reno Regional Airport, this is a $626,000 grant for a 150 by 90 box hangar. This is in conjunction with the terminal building. The idea, they have a big round top hangar, hangar 1, that will go away. Unfortunately, the hangar height, the design of that just does not work for the modern aircraft and for the type of aircraft that they have coming into El Reno at this day and age. And so that would be right next to the terminal building they're going to be pursuing, acting as their FBO hangar, transient storage, those types of things. Obviously, the possibilities are endless, but that's, again, to be in support of that, to see the revitalization there. That's El Reno Airport going forward, given the traffic that they've seen over the past couple of years and the design, the demand that they've had over the past few years as really the metro just continues to grow out west. And so with that, in support of their terminal building at Elk City, this is a request for a $668,000 grant for a 100 by 150 box hangar. This is, as we also have a taxi lane project in our ACP currently, this is again to open up that northwest side of their airport, keep expanding out. They do have a lot of jets that come through there that often have to sit out on the ramp, and some of them take off before, late at night so that they don't have to, of course, depending on the weather. So much like all of our places in Oklahoma, if you're going to have a nice, expensive jet out there, you want to make sure it's covered and out of the elements. And they have had several requests out there for that and to be able to generate the revenue off of both the lease for long-term tenants in there, but also for transient storage is what we're aiming for out there. And then really to kickstart the business development up to the north side, make sure all that is connected. I think they've got all the utilities and everything in the area too. So just really looking to expand up and take care of the areas that they know are primed for growth based off of the requests that they've got to this point as well. At Guyman Municipal, same concept out there. Oh, excuse me, I think I skipped their Frederick there. $336,400 grant for a 100 by 65 box hangar. Again, they have some old facilities out there, and they do have some desire for folks that want to come out but don't necessarily want to stay in the existing facilities. And so whether it be, we're helping to get this kicked off, really open up the space that they have massive amounts of decent apron out there. And it's just a matter of having a place that, there are plenty of folks that want to land there. But whenever you don't do a whole lot of, business there is usually what allows you to drive the purchase of that land. But whenever you're just looking to have your stuff out there to take in what you have in the community, especially with the partnership agencies that they have down there in Frederick with, the Commemorative Air Force, those types of folks that you can really do a lot of work with. We're just trying to get them facilities so that they can start that growth, those relationships, getting more interest in the airport because they have a good presence there now. It's just if they can get the folks that have been in conversations with the city in and hooked, then I really think that we can get that going. But I think at the end of the day, for the folks that are coming through, it's just a matter of making sure that they have a place to store transients, aircraft, as well as maybe a bulk hangar for the ones that are in facilities that, much like the other ones, just aren't staying dry. They're, birds get in there, all those types of things that we're all very familiar with, especially whenever those hangars are 30, 40, 50, 60 years old. At McCurtain County Regional Airport, this is another grant for a box hangar, 80 by 80 anticipated out there. $540,000 anticipated the OAC share. This is another FBO style hangar to really take advantage and have a place to store those aircraft whenever they come in. To be able to offer maintenance is one of the things that a lot of these hangars are intended to do. I mean, even if you're not using the full thing for a maintenance facility, you can have a nice little maintenance operation in the corner, get your IAs, get your annuals, those types of things, and that's a huge demand that we've been seeing across the state at a great many, really all of these airports to some degree, trying to find the folks to take care of the annuals and get them in and out quick as well, because last thing we want is that downtime with our aircraft. So the more that we can have facilities for those types of operations, those types of maintenance facilities, the more that we can have folks that are, able to spend their money in their local communities rather than flying to, the Tulsa Riverside or the OUs or of the world or of the state to get those services done. The more we can do these in different places, the more competition, the more economic drivers for these smaller communities to really build up their airports from the ground up and really see them become more sustainable. Again, at the end of the day, that's our goal. And so moving on to Okmulgee. This is a $350,000 anticipated grant for two 68 by 56 box hangars. I think they have some kind of very specific plan because that is the most specific box hanger number that I received in part of these items. So they have a good plan for what they're wanting to seek out there at Okmulgee. Again, just to try to increase the amount of space that they have for storage. The biggest request on here you'll see from OU Max Westheimer. This is a grant for 150 by 100 box hangar. Again, some additional office space is anticipated for this hangar. And the idea is that they are looking to expand out very close to where the existing OU facility is. There's about 24 acres of developable area down there that they're really they're trying to find that first domino to fall. And so they're working with the university to build a hangar that will serve their own aircraft. It'll serve whether it be athletics. I mean, it's going to be a multi-use hangar built for OU. And so this cost will be part of, the wide amounts of, some of the pavements are included in that. Some of this kind of the initial work to get that site ready is included in that. And so what we're presenting for is that full 40% grant that they're looking for to break on the other side of that barrier. Obviously, as we start the design process, we would be able to understand what presents to you exactly what that footprint is, what that looks like, what the layout is. But the idea is to not only build this one hangar, but ensure that after this hangar is built, that whole area is ready for development, because we are pretty confident, and I can say this from a few years of working, there's a lot of folks that have wanted to get started not only on that area, but another area there on the facility. And if we could really break open that area right there by OU, I know that once, much like Okema, once we get the stuff there and people can tie into it, then that stuff is just going to fill up, because there has been a long laundry list of waiting list of people that have been waiting to call, say, hey, once you got this done, give me a call and let's talk. And so while this obviously is primarily for the facility that will serve OU, the idea and the reason that we're wanting to pursue this is because of what that means for the future of that airport. At Prague Municipal Airport, they're seeking a grant for up to 4 48 by 40 foot box hangars. I anticipated just shy of about $400,000 on the OAC portion of that. Again, I think I say this every time, but the reason these are very specific numbers is because I try to go based off of what the engineers send us. And so I do our percentages based off of that. I just want to make sure that we understand these are very preliminary design or engineering level estimates on the front end. I always like to, usually if it doesn't have a bunch of zeros after it, I want to make sure that that's not, you're not anticipating that that's exactly what we're going to spend on these projects. At Shawnee Regional, just about $1.2 million grant for a 100 by 100 box hangar out there. This is in partnership with a Gordon Cooper Technology Center, and this would be intended to both a wide variety of things, both for MRO type of facilities, so you can work on it inside the hangar, bring it outside for your run-ups, all those types of things, be on the airport for that, and have that all right there next to Gordon Cooper Technology Center. They have a donated aircraft that is on the table, and we are trying to find room for that, while also just really expanding the opportunities that the folks at Gordon Cooper Technology Center have, especially given our initiatives that we were working for to bring up the workforce, whether it's, not just pilots and those types of folks. We need mechanics. We need everybody that works on these aircraft. And so we're wanting to do our part to ensure that our facilities across the state have the hangar facilities to take advantage of the opportunities that they're getting from some of these airlines to donate these aircraft for their educational purposes. And at Weatherford Stafford Airport, about $550,000 grant anticipated for one 120 by 100 box hangar. And again, this is in support of the new terminal facility that we have out there, so that they can have a nice place to store the great folks that and the great planes that fly out there, whether it be for the long term or whether it be for the museum. And with that, staff recommends approval of these, approval of inclusion of these projects into the current ACP 2027 to 2020, or that would be the 2023 to 2027. Some of these will go in fiscal year 2023, the others in 24. And with that, I stand for any questions.
I have a question.
Certainly, sir.
These numbers, this 1.7 million for 130 by 120, is that the entire project cost, or is that our 40%?
That is our 40%.
Since when does a 130 by 120 cost 1.7 million? I built a 200 by 200 for 1.7 million. Now, admittedly, that's gone up and it'd be about 600,000 more now, but that's a 200 by 200 free span. 130 by 120 shouldn't cost anywhere near that kind of, that's more than the entire project cost for a 130 by 120.
Right. And so at this one, and again, I do apologize because I might have made that a little bit more misleading than I intended, because there is 130 by 120 is just the open hangar portion, be heated, insulated, those types of things. But then there's an additional 130 by 30 by 130 that is all finished out office space, all those types of things. It's a corporate facility to where you could have.
So this isn't being used as a hangar. This is being used as office space.
Well, it's both. It's intended to be like a corporate headquarters or a facility to where you can have your corporate there, but you also have your whole team that's working in the hangar all connected in one. And so it's more than likely going to be on the back end of that would be the 130 by 20, or 130 by 30. And then the other will be all just the full office space. But we're looking to partner on the whole thing, because your finished space is, probably looking at the last figures that I heard were somewhere around 500 the square foot on finished office space. By the time you go through design, all that good stuff through the public bidding process. Obviously, our goal is to get that down, but those are the most recent numbers that we've had on some of the bids. It's been $400 to $500 finished office space on that.
All these numbers seem just hideously high. And my second question is, who benefits from that hangar come corporate office space? Is Bartlesville leasing that out to a company?
Yes, and
So
all
they'll
these.
see monthly revenue from that.
Yes.
This isn't a loan, this is a grant.
Right. And I believe that in a partnership with our money, I think about, I believe it's about $4 million is what Bardmore Development Authority is putting in, and then our portion going to help match whatever the delta is on that project cost. So I mean, there is significant community investment in this one as well. It's just with this, and especially with the ones with the finished space, the intention is to bring a company in, lease them at the best aviation market rate that you can, get that revenue from them, and then, but the idea with this one is to, kind of like with OU, kick off that initial project that opens the rest of that area for development. And so it's a mixture of, obviously, with all of these, the intention is, and the requirement is, that they have to operate it, and it has to be owned and operated by the municipality. And so therefore, you'd be leasing these out, or you'd be using it as an FBO facility ran by your municipality.
So the more we kick in, the more they see in monthly lease revenue on an ongoing basis forevermore. And they're not responsible for paying any of this back or remitting any of this back to the commission for us to use it again.
That is correct. On these, and again, we can take it back and talk about whether or not there are some of these that need to be loans rather than grants, but the idea is that to partner with them on the initial development so that as they get those revenues in, then they are able to do more on the local level in support of what we also do at the state level with those projects.
I have a hard time believing they can't get business loans. I mean, the amount that we're giving as 40% seems excessively high. It appears to be that should be the cost for the entire project. I mean, a 100 by 100 at Shawnee doesn't cost 1.16 million.
Commissioner, let me step in here.
Certainly.
Our costs are driven by the Public Competitive Bidding Act. We don't get to go to a contractor and say, you shall build this for this price.
I wouldn't suggest that. I would never
And
suggest that.
so-
I would suggest that we go get competitive bids.
Well, and that's what we're doing.
And if I can get competitive bids that are way lower than what this says is 40%, then I'm certain they can.
Well, that's not how the Competitive Bidding Act works. The Competitive Bidding Act works is you design a project via an engineer, you then advertise that project for 21 to 30 days, and whatever is your lowest bid is what you have to go with. You don't get to simply go get quotes from this hangar developer or that hangar developer. We have to operate within the Competitive Bidding Act. And so, I mean, I'll just tell you, costs on hangars, we used to be able, for just a standard T-hangar unit, square footage was probably $35 a square foot to just the metal shell itself. Today, you're looking at $80, $85 a square foot. Those are realized costs from other bidded projects that are out there. And trust me, I hear your anger, and I hear your issue, and I wish hangars were cheaper, but this is the world we live in with hangar prices today. I wish we could go back to hangar prices of 2018, 2019. But if we're going to do hangars,
No, they're about 50 to 60% higher right now, 60 to 70%, but I can tell you what I spent to build one.
right.
And these numbers for the 130 by 120, or even, they're way higher than what I spent for a 200 by 200 open span. I mean, it costs a lot to free span 200 feet.
I can show you bid tabs of hangar projects from 2015, 2016 to hangar projects today, and you'll be equally disappointed. I am disappointed when I see these bid tabs, but that's just the world that we live in.
Can we
with
not,
inflation.
can we not ask that they go out and solicit bidders? And
That's-
say,
that's-
I need you to bid on this, I need you to bid on this, I need you to
I mean,
bid on this,
that's-
because these bids are not competitive.
Well,
These
you have-
prices are not competitive.
These are the engineering estimates. What will happen in this process is the engineers of record will go out, design the projects, and then again, it gets advertised publicly, competitively, just like a roadway project, just like any of our other runway projects.
It gets advertised, and if they're watching, they'll put in a bid.
And
But that's obviously not enough to make it competitive. You need to go out and solicit people to bid and say, hey, Bob, come give me a bid. Hey, Tim, I need a bid. I need you guys to get in here and give me a bid, not just advertise it and you got one bidder, you got two bidders.
I understand. We don't just simply sit on our chairs and wait for the bidders to come to us. Our engineers, our engineering team, our consulting engineers are out there trying to, no one wants high prices. Everyone wants the lowest and best price. They're wanting to get the most bang for the buck and get the most infrastructure invested. That way, we cherish when we get 3, 4, 5, 10 bidders on a project. But at the end of the day, we are bound by the Competitive Bidding Act of Oklahoma when we go out and we do these public projects with public dollars.
Well, they're not
And-
getting close to competitive pricing to what market price is, because these prices are all way higher than market price, is what I'm telling you.
And I understand, and that's what you can do as a private entity in the private business world is different than what we can do in the public world when we're dealing with
Funny, anytime
municipalities.
I've been a government vendor, they have beat me up on price. They beat me down to give it to them at cost as much as they can. They don't get to bloat things like this. If this is 40, if these numbers shown are 40%, that means the total price is 2.2, 2.3 times that. That's excessive.
Well, and like I said, it would be my wish that I could snap my fingers and cut these prices in half tomorrow. Then we could go do to double the hangars that we could do.
But we need to find a way to make that happen, because these numbers, our job is to be fiscally responsible to the taxpayer first and foremost,
Correct.
and to stretch our budget to help as many airports as we possibly can. But something tells me these airports that we're helping are out to grab as much as they possibly can. They're not going to leave a dime on the table for us to help others with. They want as much as they can. That's the way the world works. And I believe these numbers are exaggerated.
Well, so you have to understand, these numbers are not the final numbers. These are the estimates. The final numbers will come in the form of bids. When those bids come in, if these estimates are high and the bids come in, we're not going to give them that number you see there at the estimate. We're going to give them the number that was put in the bid.
So
And that-
our vote yes on this is not going to commit us to that number.
Correct. It's just going to be like any other airport project. You guys are approving these projects to be inserted in the airport construction program today.
Okay,
Then
but
just
that-
like-
so
just
that's
like
not
on
approving that expenditure.
Right, so just like on
All right.
item 10, you see below the next item, those are the actual grant approvals that we are doing. So this is simply adding these projects to the airport construction program. This is awarding the dollars, or excuse me, not awarding, selecting the projects that we believe merit inclusion in the ACP based on the $14 million the legislature allocated for us for hangar construction.
If I understand this correctly, this is over a 5-year period,
Correct.
and this is roughly ballparking about $10 million, so it's about $2 million a year.
Right,
And
and
these are
so
estimates, so.
with these projects, these are actually, so these will go in between, whether, some in 2023, others in 2024.
Understand.
So with these, we're basically what we did is we did a Q1, Q2, and essentially Q1, those are ones, hey, as soon as we are able to look at getting these into the ACP, we'll ask you to go get a design scope and fee. Then we'll get that back. We'll bring that design scope and fee to you guys for approval, so
Okay.
they can then move forward with that design.
So
And
they
so
may
the
well-
idea would be these are primarily over 2 years, not 5, for these
So
particular
they may
ones.
well be padding anticipated inflation into these engineering numbers.
Right.
Okay.
I'm sure you all are way ahead of me, but do you guys, because we're building hangars across the state, so you guys ever look at average, price per foot to build these hangars, so that when you get these bids, you have a ballpark number in your head of what it should come back at. I mean, you guys
Yeah.
do that, correct?
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
what the engineer estimate is based off of. So we take, and you'll see here in item 10, there's 3 hangar projects that we received bids on. We've approved other hangar projects. There have been hangar projects throughout the state and the region that we're basing these estimates off of. It's not like this is the first time for us to ever build a hangar in the state of Oklahoma.
Sure.
And so we're taking those bid costs and averaging those bid, if you have a project that had 5 bids, you're gonna take the average construction costs and then apply that to your next estimate moving forward.
Sure.
And, like I said, you're not gonna find someone that's more pissed off at hangar costs than me. But I don't get to go to a contractor and say, hey, I think your price is a little high, you need to drop that down 20%.
No, but we
Low bid
do
is low
get
bid.
to deny the ones with the outrageously high bids and say, you need to go back and see if you can get your bids lowered.
And we are certainly entitled to reject bids as a state government entity. I will tell you, in the history of rebidding projects, if you simply rebid the same project, it's never come in lower the second time. But yeah, to answer your question, Commissioner Phillips, our estimates are based on the exact bidded costs. Now, obviously, it may not be apples to apples, and so a 100 by 100 clear span hangar with a 22-foot door may be $100 a square foot for just the hangar building itself. And then if you're trying to extrapolate and interpolate that to a 150 by 100 that's got a 25-foot door, there's going to be some negotiation there with your engineer and trying to figure out what the estimate is. But that at the end of the day is what you're seeing. And I'll say on some of these, you look at 100 by 100 that's one price, and you look at 100 by 120 that's a different price. Some of those may be utilities. I mean, I can tell you right now, the Bartlesville hangar has to have some serious utilities brought to it. The Westheimer project has to have some serious utilities brought to it. Some of these have utilities right next to where we're building the hangar. And so not every hangar is going to be an apple-to-apple comparison. What I can tell you is that I have some pretty good faith in the engineers that have submitted their estimates. And of course, going down the path, if there's ever a time where we feel like something's being over-designed, I think this staff will tell you, we're trying to do the bare bones as possible. We're trying to cut, find the most efficiency with the dollar that we have. And at the end of the day, if we can find a way to cut a corner, we're gonna cut that corner, because I'd love for nothing more than to go add a couple more projects to the hangar list. This is just what we have. And you'll see, Commissioner Putnam, as you noted, there's only about $11.25 million of projects here. What that's allowing us to do, we got 11.25, $14 million was awarded from the legislature. We're gonna go out, we're gonna bid all these projects, and if they come in under, guess what? At the end of this, we have $3 or $4 million left over. We're gonna go do another 3, 4, 5, 6 hangar projects. And that's my goal, is that if we can, you never want to over budget and then get into a situation where you gotta go ask for more money. You want to be able to under program and then find out that, oh no, we do have a little extra money left over. Let's go do some more hangar projects in year 3. That's the end goal here, is trying to make sure that we're being responsible with the dollar, making sure we can get as biggest bang for our buck as possible. But also, when the legislature gave us this money, their intent was to drive new activity and new businesses to airports. That was the goal. And so a lot of these hangars, you see these larger hangars, some of them have office space attached to them. They're hoping to bring the MRO business to that company, or bring an MRO company to that airport. So it may be a company that's bringing 20, 30 jobs to Bartlesville, for example, or maybe a company that's going to bring 5 jobs and do an interior shop at a small airport. That at the end of the day is the goal with the hangar program, is to drive activity, drive revenue for airports, but most importantly, drive additional aviation businesses to come to the Oklahoma airport system. We're trying to raise up the aviation aerospace industry. Obviously, we want this number 2 industry to be number 1 at some point in time. And so, again, I'll reiterate to every one of you, I don't like these prices any more than you do. I just live within the world that these prices are involved. And if there's ever a time where a consultant is over-designing a project, we're gonna be slapping their hands and saying, no, we gotta do this. We gotta cut corners, we gotta reduce the costs, move on down the road. What we won't do is we won't hurt the integrity of the hangar, we won't hurt the constructability of the hangar, and we're certainly gonna follow all the rules and applicable laws that are out there with the Public Competitive Bidding Act.
Is office space not beyond the scope of a hangar? I mean, you build your office building, you build a hangar. But to build your office building inside the hangar and expect it to be classified as a hangar and therefore fall under taxpayer dollars is kind of, seems a bit crooked as well.
So what I'll say to that, Commissioner, is if you want to go attract an MRO business to your airport and all you're going to have is a shell 100 by 100 building, that's not going to cut it. You need office space. If
That's
you're
your
gonna-
starting place.
Well,
And then
I-
if you want an office in it, you go build whatever. But
I understand that is
it shouldn't be
certainly-
at our expense or
That-
or our grant budget's expense.
I certainly understand that, but the airports that have been in the economic development business and the world of trying to recruit business to the airports believe that those office spaces are important to trying to recruit those aviation businesses, and therefore they have included them. It's an eligible expense. It's part of a hangar. You go look at a lot of the MRO hangars that we have out there in the great state of Oklahoma, they're all built together, office space and hangar. Now, not every one of these is going to have office space. Some of them may just have a little bathroom in the corner. Bartlesville, however, is a little bit different. They have committed $4+ million of their local money to go forward and try and build this project because they believe in the airport and they believe how important it is to the community. Westheimer is the same way. This is opening up a hangar development area, bringing utilities in that will hopefully lend its fruit and lend its labor to bringing more attractive companies to Oklahoma. When we're talking with our Department of Commerce friends, the first thing they're going to ask for is, okay, what's the height of the door, what's the width of the door, and how much office space do you have available for employees? Those are the three things that they're looking at when they're trying to relocate a business or expand a business or create a new business.
Doesn't
at
the
an
Department
airport
of
in
Commerce
Oklahoma.
have their own budget?
They do.
Shouldn't they be building the office space? We build the hangars?
I don't believe Commerce is in the role of doing infrastructure at this point in time.
Well, they're the ones that are responsible for attracting industry to Oklahoma, right?
That is true, yes.
And we have a limited budget that's allocated to aviation.
That is true.
All right, let's move on. I think I made my point.
Any other additional comments, questions? Move approval? Second. Do I hear a motion?
I move for approval.
Second.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Excuse me,
Yes.
I'd like us to identify that this is item 9, but I've been listening, but I haven't ever heard during this conversation that this has been item 9 that we can discuss it, and since that's going to be part of the motion, I'd like that to be reflected.
Thank you.
I move for proposal 9, or item 9 be approved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Thank you. Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega.
Aye.
Chairwoman Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we're on item 10. Airport Construction Grant Program Consent Docket.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioner. As you're aware, for the consent docket of the Airport Construction Grant Program, any commissioner may request that any or all of the item be considered separately. Our project at the South Grand Lake involves the acquisition of nearly 26 acres of land to extend the runway and the relocation of a roadway on the south side of the runway end. The total cost of the project, as determined through the fair market appraisal, is $163,000. Funding for the project will be provided by a state grant of about $155,000, with a further over $8,000 being contributed by the sponsor as matching funds. If you go to the next slide, then you can see the picture here. The project at Clinton Regional Airport entails building a 92 by 70 feet box hangar. The total cost of the project, which was determined through the bid, is just under $745,000. Funding for the project will be provided through a combination of a state grant fund, approximately $298,000, and a sponsor matching fund, about $447,000. We have Mr. Robert Johnston, the city manager, and Toby Baker, the consultant. If you want to talk about it.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Commissioners. To address one of your questions on this project specifically, Commissioner Hunter, we actually did receive 4 competitive bids. And so this project will be
basically just a shell of a box hangar with no built-out space, with the intent of supporting a aircraft maintenance facility on the airport. And the project also replaces one of the hangars that the city lost in the tornado a year and a half ago.
Thank you.
If I may, maybe presumption, thank you for your favorable consideration, your consideration of this. This fills a gap we've been trying to fill for several years. Kind of unfortunate, but turns out to be almost a blessing that we were subject to a tornado 18 months ago, and it changed our world, knocked some things down. This will be the last piece of our recovery effort. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Next project at Enid Woodring Regional Airport. The project is underway to construct a 120 by 120 hangar. The total cost of the project based on the bid is in excess of $1.6 million. Funding for the project will be provided by over $640,000 in a state grant fund and over $960,000 in a sponsor matching fund. We have Mr. Keston Cook, the airport manager, and Toby Baker.
Good morning, Chairwoman and Commissioners. I appreciate your time this morning. Like you said, this is a 120-foot by 120-foot hangar. To answer questions on this, it was 2 bids were received, but this is part of one schedule of 3 scheduled bids in this for a $4.5 total million project. There was 20-plus subcontractors at the pre-bid meeting. However, there was only 2 contractors large enough to do the whole project, so that's why we only received 2 bids. Again, this will be 120-foot by 120-foot. We have a current 120-foot hangar adjacent to it that we fill up quite often, and we need more space. This will allow us to hangar more transient aircraft as well as military aircraft that overnight at Woodring all the time, as well as allow us to hangar some larger corporate aviation aircraft that come to our airport all the time as well. Thank you.
And the next project at Purcell Municipal Airport, the project is to construct 2 50 by 50 hangars. Based on the bid, the total cost of the project is just under $630,000. Funding for the project will be provided through $223,000 of federal grant fund, approximately $252,000 of state grant fund, and roughly $155,000 of a sponsor matching fund. Again, we have Mr. Toby Baker and Ms. Rachel Huey, the airport manager.
Thank you, Ben. Purcell Municipal is one that has teetered right on the brink of having sufficient based airplanes to remain NIPIAS classified, and it's been purely a function of lack of hangar space. They absolutely have the demand, but ran out of room to build new hangars. So about 5 years ago, we built a new taxi lane and hangar development area on the west side of the airport, and this will be the first set of hangars constructed to help ensure that they remain classified and continue to receive the NIPIAS funding, or the MPE funding. We did receive 4 competitive bids on this project to build 2 50 by 50 box hangars. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Rachel Huey. I'm the Emergency Management Director for the City of Purcell, and as other duties as assigned, I'm also the airport manager. So kind of being thrown into this and right in the middle of 2 ongoing projects, trying to learn everything I can here. I did want to thank you for your support of this project. This will definitely give us the opportunity to have some more based aircraft at our airport. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm standing for any question you may have, but staff recommends approval.
I just want to point out that a $1.6 million total for a 120 by 120 is very different from asking $1.7 million for a 40% match for a 130 by 120. The prices here seem to be in line for these projects specifically, but don't seem to match up with the prices that were being asked for the prior lots, for the engineering estimates. That's all I wanted to point out.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Do I hear a motion for the consent docket?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega. Chairwoman Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Motion passed. Item 11, Prep Fund Project Consent Docket.
Yes, ma'am. As I was mentioning earlier in the prep fund update on item 7, we've got a couple of prep fund projects before you for consideration for approval. In item 8, these were added to the ACP that Nick presented to you all. Item A here is Ardmore Municipal Airport, $100,000 to do the engineering study to develop those prep fund projects. And then item B at the West Woodward Regional Airport is to do the similar engineering project, but also to do the design of the terminal building, which is their first desired project as with part of their prep funds. That cost is a little shy of $310,000. Of course, these will be 100% funded as we've previously discussed. Staff recommends approval.
Any questions? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve?
On item 11, I move for approval.
Second.
All those in favor, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Chairwoman Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Next is item 12, and we're bringing Nick Young back up for 2024 to 2028 5-year airport construction program.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. So this being my third item for the airport construction program, this will be for the upcoming changes to the upcoming 2024 to 2028 airport construction program. This item is requesting that we enter these programs into the ACP and then move to the public comment phase to allow the public to comment on any of our proposed changes to the ACP. And then in May, I would come back to then approve the upcoming 2024 to 2028 ACP with any changes that were brought before us, obviously between that public comment period. The first project that we would look to add to the upcoming ACP is down at Ardmore Downtown Executive. Calendar year, anticipate about 2028. This is based off of their PCI down there. They have had a recent, they've done some maintenance down there to keep their runway going, but as we know, our regular scheduled maintenance, whether it be overlays or crack seals and seal coats, wanting to stay on the right time frame for those so that we can maximize the lifespan of our pavements across the airport pavement system. And so with this, we do anticipate that we'll be ready for a discretionary project in that time frame to do an overlay down there. Anticipated cost of $4 million. That's a discretionary FAA project that we're anticipating for that. So our portion would be the 5% match on that FAA grant. At Ardmore Municipal, this would be phase 3 of the taxiway Echo project that we've been working on over the past several years. And so phase 1 was the far northwest portion. Unfortunately, this visual that I have before you doesn't show that completed section, but the far northwest side where the red ends, that actually goes on and connects to the north side of that primary runway there. And so that was phase 1. Phase 2 is what we're kind of working toward, to work from the southeast up to taxiway Bravo. That's a perpendicular taxiway there about halfway up. And so phase 3 would be from taxiway Bravo, connecting it all the way to the northwest there. And so again, anticipating this to also be a discretionary project. The goal of this to get a full parallel runway at the airport with straight-in approaches, as the FAA requires for those approaches. We want to make sure that their minimums are as low as possible, especially given the items that we're pursuing down there and building up that south portion of the that cargo-type facility that they're looking to build out with their prep funds. And so with this $7 million discretionary project, our portion being 5% of the local match anticipated for that in about the 2028 timeframe. At Bartlesville Municipal Airport, this is the diagram that I had mentioned a little bit earlier. This particular project would be for the taxi lane. And as you can see, there's that taxi lane that goes from the left. You can see that going left to right is their parallel taxiway, going off of taxiway Delta there to the east, which would be up and down for you guys. That's the taxi lane that we're looking to build out to then be able to open up that industrial park type of area over there. Mixture of corporate hangars, private hangars, those types of things, but trying to ensure that we're getting that built out so that they can move forward, work with Bartlesville Development Authority on a lot of the requests that they've been getting to build that out and to, as we were talking about a little bit earlier, get folks in here to really do some of the private development in addition to the local development that we're trying to support out there. And so this particular project is for that taxi lane. It is an FAA project that we're partnering with. looking to update the OAC share from $300,000 to $600,000 to get that built out based off current pricing, because we don't want to leave them short to then not be able to move forward with some of the deals that are potentially on the table for them moving forward. So I want to set them up so that they can take this and run as they're looking to build up that area and spur that economic development on the airport. Total project cost on that anticipated to be just shy of $1.5 million. Most of that coming from the FAA grants there at $740,000. Anticipated about $100,000 local match. At Chattanooga Sky Harbor Airport, we're just looking to slide this up 1 year from 25 up to 24. This is rehabilitate and reconstruct the apron out there. 95.5 proposition at $400,000 total project cost, $380,000 of the commission. That part is not changing. We're just looking to do that a little sooner than we had previously anticipated. At Chattanooga right now, off the top of my head, I think they hover, yeah, right there, about 17 there. And so you can see the T hangers there on the south portion there look like the Tic Tacs there, but they actually have a pretty decent little flying operation that happens out there. They get some good training that happens there at Chattanooga. The problem is when that apron is in severe disrepair. And so, yeah, just looking to support the activities that are existing out there to try to keep them from any type of prop strikes or anything like that with some of the FOD that they have out there, because it is pretty extensive. At Claremore Regional Airport, this is a project we are looking to add to the ACP. This is a more kind of crack seal coat type of proposition, standard maintenance for the runway out there. Obviously, the scheduling of these projects, this one anticipated for 27 is driven by our PCI data, our pavement condition index that our engineers go and verify via their airport pavement management inspections. And so as we build this out, anticipating a project, basic kind of maintenance project out there, $400,000 partnering with an FAA grant on that, for the commission share of about $76,000 on that to make sure that we get everything out there done that needs to be done at the time of the anticipated FAA grant. At El Reno Regional Airport, this project we're simply looking to slide back in the ACP back to 2027. That allows some additional time to get their terminal building and the hangar and any other of those projects right there at the primary area of the apron done and completed, so that then we could move toward opening up that area to the east. The bottom portion there, the red shaded area, is the taxi lane that we are looking to partner in with, and that is to open up that area and really build out the facility, get them some more, whether it be more corporate box hangar type of facilities out there to spur up that traffic and really open up that area of the facility, rather than it being just kind of boxed in right there. And also, with removing that hangar there, that blue space where hangar 1 is, that'll open up their primary apron, be able to provide them with a nice straight apron line there, right with their potential FBO hangar in the future, as well as the terminal building right there, so that they can provide a great front door for their airport there in their community. Total project cost on that's just shy of about $1 million to open that side up with that 35-foot taxi lane into that development area. Our portion anticipated to be about $450,000 of that. Again, just wanting to make sure that we get that fully built out rather than just a partial taxi lane, to where then, the local development doesn't want to come in because they don't want to meet in the middle. But at the end of the day, the idea is to spur that economic development, find those middle grounds from the discussions that have been discussed with the companies and businesses that have considered some of our facilities. So these projects being entered in here based off of those conversations and what we've heard from our engineers that work on on these projects, the local airports, and of course from some of the contractors as well. Excuse me, the businesses that are looking to come in, still in construction mode there. So with Elk City Regional Airport, this is to slide this project forward by a year if we're able to. That'll be dependent on getting everything ready for the FAA portion of that grant, but we want to slide that forward in partnership with the potential hangar project out there. Those 4 shaded in hangars that you see right there, that's the business development type of area that we're looking to build out. That first one there on the far south of the hatched square would be the first, that first hangar that I was proposing earlier. Obviously, as we move down the road with that design, we can see what and where that actually, what all that actually looks like and what that cost comes out to. But the idea being to, once we get those hangars built out there, trying to get some additional hangars back to the west there to where they could build out, additional hangars, whether it be small box hangars, T hangars, whatever their need is going forward. But again, just to open up that west side there so that as we get, the next 1, 2, 3, 4 hangars out in there, that they're able to separate their big traffic from their smaller traffic. You don't want all your small aircraft taking up your nice big corporate front line right there that you're trying to build out, especially given the traffic that they get out there. And so again, we want to make sure that those that do fly out there potentially want to stay out there, base out there, and those that do stay overnight that are paying a good price to do so, especially whenever you get in some of their more hectic weather months out there. So we're just looking to slide this forward, the same costs. Well, actually, excuse me, we did increase our OAC share to $500,000 on that, again, to try to get that fully built out and support the economic development out there. At Enid Woodring Regional, we're looking to slide up this project for the taxi lane by a year and increase our share just by $50,000 up to $500,000, primarily looking between the FAA and commission shares as well as the local match, basically just planning for that to be about a $1 million project. So sliding that up from 26 to 25. At Guthrie Edmond Regional Airport, this would be to add this project to the ACP, this one to acquire land for expansion on the southwest side of the airport. My apologies for the orientation of this picture. It really drove me nuts as I was putting this together because the words are right side up for you, but the fact that it's not north-south, it makes it a little harder to see. So Toby, I'm not messing with you guys. You guys did the right thing, but whenever I put this on here, I went back and forth over and over about which way I wanted to go. But the southwest portion being essentially all that blue line items there that you can see the different tracks that are highlighted. This is to support that land acquisition to build out that side of the airport. Primarily, the biggest reasoning, obviously, being the taxiway project that we've been working toward, getting all the land required for that, and then obviously being able to use some of that area to the south and west for aeronautical purposes. I mean, they've had a lot of development there at Guthrie. They've got a lot of hangar space, but they don't have a lot of space to really expand, and so really to build out and acquire for building out that southwest side is what we're aiming to help partner with them on. And so anticipating this, obviously it'll be based off of fair market value. Placeholder that we have in here right now is a $300,000 project cost at the 95-5 split for that land acquisition. And another one to add to the ACP there at Guthrie is a new taxi lane after, we were looked to build out off of this. This particular project really is dependent on an FAA grant, an ATP grant. And really, we just want to be prepared that if they are able to get that ATP grant from the FAA, that we have this planned and ready to go. So that, again, after we acquire that land, we can start the initial proposition of building out some initial infrastructures that then others will want to partner in and come out. Yes, sir.
What's wrong with the current taxiway?
The separation standards. So the red
close?
line up there, yes. Yeah, too close with because of their current design standards. Yes.
Didn't have to stand at one time. Yeah, okay.
I agree.
Chain.
And so anticipate that to be about a $1.3-ish million project. Commission share on that would just be $400,000 is what we're anticipating to mainly just to be able to partner in with that to get them built out and support that development. And this one is really the one that we already have in the ACP to support that area of the development. This is to construct their terminal building in 2027. We're not changing the year. We're just updated our match to show the full $1 million since we've been able to up that from the $500,000. Total project cost anticipated on that about $3 to $3.5 million right now. Obviously, as we move on down the road, that one's pretty far out. We'll work with the engineers and the airport out there to get the full design scope and what that looks like going forward. At Hefner Easley Airport, there in Wagner, we are looking to add this project to the ACP based off their PCI, looking for rehabilitation somewhere around the 2028 timeframe. And this would partner with an FAA grant on that to match their 5%. So anticipate about a $1.1 million project, our portion being the 5% of that local match. At Jones Memorial in Bristow, this is another project we are looking to add to the ACP to support in their land acquisition. As we all know, as airports continue to grow, the last thing that we want them to do is become completely constrained. And so given the growth that they've had on the west side, the development that we've been able to accomplish out there, the expansion of existing businesses out at the facility, we do anticipate that they will likely fill up on that west side about 5 to 10 year time frame. And even aside from that, if somebody wants to come put a pretty big facility and utilize this area, obviously very constrained between the taxi lane there, or excuse me, the taxiway on the west side and the road that runs north-south up there as well. So if the land's available and when the land's available, looking to potentially pursue that. And obviously, based off of fair market value, would be how we would be looking to pursue the land acquisition out there to be able to expand out to the east side when the time comes and if the right fit were to come, on the business development side as well. At Mid-America Pryor Industrial Airport, we're looking to add into the ACP construct a taxi lane for hangar development. They are finishing up a project right now for their terminal area development plan. And so one of the things that they're going to be looking to do in the near future, as we'll see in just a moment, is really start to revitalize that area with the terminal building, those types of things, but also looking at what they want to do with their existing hangars and what they want that facility to look like. Obviously, there's a lot of great business assets that have located out in the Pryor area that are using the airport, and really what they're trying to do is find the right direction to go to be able to have the space ready and be able to facilitate those local investments, those business investments into the airport, and have a place for them to go. Again, putting in the infrastructure so that the conversations that are already happening with their economic development team are in place once those folks get ready to move on down the line with those plans. And so a lot of great discussions going on out there. We're just looking to partner with them as best we can. They're obviously looking to put their FAA money toward that, and again, we're just looking to extend that, add to that investment to get as much as we can so that they're ready to build and get that development going out there. And so with that, looking at about $1 million project, our portion of that, we'd be looking at $400,000 with our partnership. As I mentioned, we are looking to add their construct a terminal building project in about the 2028 timeframe to help them with this, getting all their kind of their front door ready for this facility. Anticipating a $3 million terminal building project out there. Our portion of that obviously capped at $1 million. And this, if you wanted to go back, you could see kind of what their preliminary view looks like in terms of where they want their terminal building. That's a yellow portion there. A nice big kind of FBO style hangar there to the next of it. Our portion, and again, forgive me whenever I make some of those rough red drawings for my taxi lanes, but as you can see, they basically have the light blue and blue areas basically reserved for what they would want there. And as we get further on down the line, we'd start working with what the proposed hangars and facilities are, and then that way as we know what the plan is moving down the road with some potential initial investments, that we build that out to right-size that and find the right pathways so that everybody has the right route. You don't, for some of these areas that exist right now, there were some planning efforts that maybe weren't fully sought out on the very front line of some of the local buildings. And so wingspan and stuff like that's an issue, and that's part of what we're trying to address here with some of these, removing some hangars, moving some hangars, those types of things, because really they have beachfront property and they have random just structures on it in some regard. Some are some are in decent shape, but really it's not suitable for the type of traffic that they're receiving out there. And we want to put them with the right foot forward going on down the road. So with this one, just be to add a terminal building at the end of the ACP currently, or the upcoming ACP in the 2028 timeframe. At Ponca City Regional Airport, this is just to slide this project back by a year. It's to give the terminal building project time to move on forward with its design phase, getting into construction, and then really until we have that completely done, we're not able to do this project anyway. So as we're reading the tea leaves, see where we are right now, we do anticipate needing to slide this back by a year to 2024. Costs remaining the same. FAA project that we're partnering at 5%, $1.5 million total, $750,000 being the commission share. At Sallisaw Municipal Airport, this is really all we're doing is increasing our share in the ACP to show this as a $1 million project on our end, as we have with our other terminal building projects to this point. $2 million project anticipated for that. Obviously, we will see what that number comes out with as they look through doing their design, coming out with their layout and those types of things, but initially looking at that $2 million figure. At Shawnee Regional Airport, this project, we're simply looking to slide it back a year from 27 to 28. This is one that will be a discretionary project with the FAA. We think that we still have a couple things to do to ensure that that can compete well. Because with discretionary projects, you do have to compete with other airports in your region. And so, as we know, goes runway centerline out. And so we do think that we are working toward getting that justification in place, given how constrained their apron is. Plenty of pictures of just completely filled up apron space, much like what we've talked about several times down in Durant as well. And so really trying to be able to expand that, get them the footprint that they need to serve as, you know, their main service area there for their FBO. Again, this is going to be a $2.5 million project. That's not anticipated to change. We will look at partnering with that at a 5% rate, just looking to slide that back 1 year on the next ACP. At South Grand Lake Regional Airport, during our next kind of phase of rehabilitation out there, which we anticipate coming up in the 2026 timeframe, we are looking to do a basic runway rehabilitation, but also a very small extension. As we've talked about with our land acquisition and trying to move the road there on the south end of the airport, really what we're trying to do is once we go in and do the regular rehabilitation based off the PCI, at that same time, go ahead and do the slight extension that's necessary. Because once that goes to the full, you get that road moved, you get your full runway safety area going. In order to get rid of their displaced thresholds and get a full 5,000 feet of usable runway based off the FAA regulations, a very small extension is going to be needed for that. Obviously, we'll look at the exact length of that based off of the current, displaced thresholds, what actual pavement's available for that. And so it'll be a very small extension. We do anticipate this to be about a $500,000 project. It's a 95.5 proposition, but the vast majority of that project we do anticipate will be the normal stuff that we'd be doing anyway. It's just an opportune time to get that all taken care of. So, and since I don't know if we've talked about it in quite some time, I'm sure we're all aware, but just to make note, the reason that we want to get to 5,000 feet of usable runway is primarily for insurance purposes. Even if it's in a pilot operating handbook that you can operate on that, that runway if you're working for a company that in their insurance, requirements, that doesn't allow you to do it. Obviously, they're going to skip off and go to an airport that meets their requirements because God forbid anything happened during that, then nobody wants to take that liability. So that's why, especially with the growth at this facility, we really want to be able to capture that full 5,000. And looking to add that in the 2026 timeframe. At Stigler Regional Airport, this is a construct parallel taxiway system. We're just looking to slide back a couple years. This is another one of those that justification is still a key concept. They need to cross that threshold. One of the things that we've discussed with them is they need about 3, maybe 4 more hangars to really go and show that justification, not only to us, but the FAA. And so if they are driving their traffic as they say they are, and they're bringing in that local or even private investment to help get to them to some additional hangars, at that point we would be looking then to move forward with that on an FAA grant. But for right now, just looking to slide that back, still keep the $2.2 million price tag on it with the anticipation of partnering at 5% at about $110,000. At Stillwater Regional Airport, this is a project for their terminal building. Again, this is just a simple update of our portion of that based off of our rules update to a cost share of $1 million from the OAC. And total project cost on that right now anticipated at $5.2 million. That is a unique project that's had a lot of hurdles, so we'll see how that comes out. But essentially, we're partnering with a much larger FAA grant on that and just trying to help them get what they need because whenever they did the initial study, some of the initial plans weren't going to work structurally, and so they've had to pivot quite a bit. And so they've been working very diligently with FAA to ensure they understand where the best place would be, what the best path forward is, given that Plan A, unfortunately, is just not even a possibility. So they're still working down that pathway, but we're showing it about $5.2 million total project cost on that one. At Tahlequah Municipal Airport, forgive my rough taxi lane outline here, but essentially all I'm trying to show is that we want to construct a new taxi lane for some hangar development on this airport, primarily because the hangars on the west side, due to the terrain out there, are obstructions. And so that obviously creates issues to your potential issues for your approaches, those types of things. And so one of the things that we're always trying to do as we move on forward is remove obstructions and create safe environments for our flying public. So this would be a partnership project that we work with an FAA grant to get them some taxi lane designed and constructed there on the east side to then be able to relocate the obstructions that exist on the west. And so obviously that's most appropriate location for that is subject to change as we start working with engineers and start going down the design process, but primarily just wanting to show that we're wanting to move those to the east side to protect those protected surfaces, the Part 77 surfaces from the FAA. And so total project cost, just over $1 million anticipated. We're looking to partner with that at about $500,000. At Tahlequah Municipal as well, this will be their normal next scheduled rehabilitation of their runway, similar to the first one that I mentioned earlier at Ardmore Downtown. This is kind of our normal kind of outline that we use for our overlay projects. It's going to be a discretionary project anticipated about $4 million. Again, depending on local factors, all those types of things, whatever needs to be included, that will adjust accordingly as we move down the design. But our portion of that anticipated to be the 5% right now at $200,000. We're going to add that in the 2028 timeframe. At Max Westheimer Airport, this is simply to update the FAA funding levels. We have been able to work with FAA to get some additional discretionary funding allocated to this project. Obviously, this is a very high priority, and it has been for us as well as others across the state, given the age and the condition of that facility. And so total project cost anticipated just over $11 million. We have secured discretionary funding at the FAA level at $10 million, some NPE funding as well at $150, so that gives you the whole number there for FAA, and then our portion, 5% of that. Again, with these numbers are subject to change. We are still early in the process, but given what we have from FAA, this represents our total match right now based off of what they have allocated for this project. At Watauga Municipal Airport, we are looking to construct a taxi lane and a west apron at this airport. We've seen a lot of good things happening at this airport. Had a great runway dedication following their runway project here at the end of this past year. But the right side the east side is very constrained with the highway that runs north-south there. There's actually a part just north of that on the right side, that long skinny T-hanger. You can actually see where the taxiway jaunts to the east. So the separation from the apron there, not quite to standards, and whenever you get it to standards, you leave very, very little room to construct hangars. Then you're also looking at your building restriction lines, restricting your heights of those buildings. So really, the west side is the only option for this airport to expand and to really grow to its potential. With the closure of the golf course to the west, that opportunity has now presented itself to start that construction and development on the west side of the airport. So with that, we're looking to construct a taxi lane and a west apron to help spur that development. Total project cost about $1.3 million, utilizing some FAA funds on that as well. Looking to partner with that with about $500,000 of commission funds for that project in 2024. And at West Woodward Airport for their terminal building that we've discussed a couple times. Right now, we're really just looking to update our commission share from the $500,000 to the $1 million to show what we're able to help assist with based off of our update to the rules. At William R. Pogue Municipal in Sand Springs, this is a project to rehabilitate or reconfigure their taxiway. So this is a part of looking something to add in the end of the ACP with an FAA project. Anticipate that this will be a discretionary project for that taxiway project, about $2.6 million to address that. 5% of the local match is what we'd be looking to assist with at $133,000. Obviously, this project will be driven by the PCI data that we have, but as part of that design and as we work through that, it will also look at direct access from the apron issues. As FAA has stated, no, obviously we do not want the direct access from aprons via connecting taxiways without a 90-degree turn anymore. And so that will be something that we address in that design as well. Obviously, all that will be evaluated as part of a PER in the coming years. Next project is one of those that we haven't done in a little while, but following the last kind of round of projects we did probably about 4 or 5 years ago, about time to start looking at programming a basic maintenance package across the state for unclassified or state-only funded airports to ensure that we're when it's justified that we're prolonging the asset that we have on the ground. As we know, it's easier to take care of the pavement along the way and a lot more cost efficient to keep those up rather than to let them get so bad that they need to be reconstructed. So this is we don't have any airports identified at this point in time, but we do look to potentially start moving on down that road in the 2027 timeframe to identify some airports that need some maintenance on their facilities and on their pavements, and total project cost anticipated about $1.25 million on that, the 95.5 proposition via normal state grant for this project. And similar to that, another round of statewide AWAS packages we are looking to add on in the 2028 timeframe. Same cost shares that we wound up with last time around. We were able to stick right about to that number of the $1.25 million for the 7 airports that we did on the last go-around. I think there's 1 or 2 of those still just finishing up, but overall very, very successful program. And I will say the last time around, whenever we selected our 7 sites, the newest one that we replaced was the year 2000. And so we're still, the ones that we'd be looking to replace are still in that, 15 to 25 year age range, especially once we get to this point. So we've made a dent, but we still have some way to go. And so really what we're going to do, and especially with the recent Oklahoma Airport System Plan, we've been able to visualize that in a way in our GIS system so that we can evaluate that, okay, where's our holes in the system versus where are some of our older systems that need to replace. So now that we have that to an even more granular level, excited to see what that looks like as we try to fill some holes going forward, as well as replacing some of the older systems across the state as well. And so we're looking at that in 2028 timeframe, just under $1.2 million of the commission share for that one. And this last one here, this is our normal statewide preliminary engineering reports that we do every year with FAA. Same thing we do every year, just anticipated total of $500,000. 450 of that comes from state apportionment, and we cover the rest as we work through our preliminary engineering reports to support our discretionary projects. So we're just looking to add that one to the ACP at its normal spot at the very end, 2028. And with that, that's the end of this presentation for the next ACP. We recommend approval of these projects into the next round of the ACP. And of course, we do recommend also to move to the public comment period. Happy to stand for any questions.
Questions? Comments?
He's been busy.
I know.
Holy moly.
I have.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega.
Aye.
Chairwoman Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Item 13, Preliminary Engineering Report Program. Kelly Fincannon.
Good morning, Commission. Item 13, Preliminary Engineering Report Program. The Commission will consider approving staff to move forward in accordance with Title III, Section 85 of Oklahoma State statutes to act as agent for the following cities' airports for the development of preliminary engineering reports and accepting federal aviation grant offers. The estimated total cost of the project is approximately $386,000 and will be funded with $306,000 from federal grants and almost $80,000 from state grant funds. The preliminary engineering reports include Claremore Regional Airport for a parallel taxiway rehabilitation, Durant Regional Airport for an apron expansion, Sand Springs William R. Pogue Municipal Airport for a parallel taxiway rehabilitation, Tahlequah Municipal Airport for a runway rehabilitation, and Robert S. Kerr Airport in Poteau for a runway extension, which is state funded. And with that, staff recommends approval, and I will stand for any questions.
Questions?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega.
Aye.
Chairwoman Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Thank you.
Next item, number 14, request for qualifications for consultant services at Carlton Landing Airport. Nick Young.
Thank you, Commissioners. For this one, as we all know there's been a lot of development out at Carlton Landing Airport. They've come a long way in the past few years. And so with this, now that they are at 10 based aircraft and they are a classified airport in the National Plan of Integrated Airport Systems, we are looking to move forward with requests for qualifications to get them a consultant on board as is required by FAA, and so that we can move forward with that RFQ process, the request for qualifications, so that we can get them a qualified engineering consultant on board to help us plan and program future projects out there to continue their great momentum that they've had to this point. So staff recommends approval. I stand for any questions.
Questions?
This consultant is for us, for them?
So it's because it's our airport based off of the statutory, the way that it's managed by an individual company via lease. And so since it's still technically an airport that we manage, wanting to make sure that we're going through the right paths to ensure that we have the ability to assist them with them, and that we have your blessing to move forward to assist them with that process. But this is technically, it would be it's the airport's consultant. We'd be helping select that consultant. And if you don't mind, I'll double check with my director to make sure that I am explaining that correctly.
Yeah, the Carlton Landing Airport is our airport by statute, and we have entered into a 25-year agreement to have some boots on the ground that are operating that airport, but the capital improvement, the direction of the airport, funding for the airport still comes through the agency, so we need to hire a consultant to go do that work. We've got two great engineers here, but we don't want to burden them with all the engineering work for the next 5 years. And so while some of it may be done in-house, some of it may need to be done out-of-house, and hence the need for consultant services to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? If not, do I hear a motion?
I move for approval of 14.
Second?
Second to approve.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega.
Aye.
Chairwoman Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Thank you.
Item 15 with Paula Keaty, Aerospace and Aviation Education Program Update.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm always glad to be here and share the activities and the work being done as we continue to grow aviation education in Oklahoma. First, I had the opportunity several times to visit with Chief Standing Bearer of the Osage Nation, who finally he said, Paula, would you come to the Osage Nation and visit with some of the superintendents of schools in the nation? And I said, certainly. So on January 11th, I did go to Pawhuska. Pawhuska is one of our existing AOPA high schools, and they welcomed, I believe, 5 other school superintendents and school leaders. They showed off their aviation lab, talked about the curriculum. Since that time, I've had 2 of those schools reach out wanting to move forward for next year. So that was a positive trip north. Secondly, we spent the afternoon of January 27th at the Paycom Center for what I hope is the first annual Aero Education Day. How it worked was 365 students, I believe, from our AOPA high schools came to the Paycom Center of the afternoon. They had a wonderful panel of industry and university experts that spoke with them in the arena. Let them shoot a couple of baskets. I too shot a basket. I was not successful. But then they also had some really nice opportunities to visit at booths and talk to post-secondary folks about where do they go next after they've had high school aviation. So that was a very positive day, and then they attended the basketball game that night. On February 17th, I was at Southeastern Aviation for their annual Aerospace Aviation Day. 3 years ago when I attended, there were 75 attendees. This year there were 375 attendees. So that will tell you right there, many of those in southern Oklahoma, many of them are AOPA schools, a few of them from North Texas as well, but it was a very positive day. As part of the FAA 625 Workforce Development Grant, I was in McAllister on Saturday, February 18th. McAllister is one of our 5 Oklahoma Aviation High Schools of Excellence, and as such brings in some of the schools in the region, which is what they did on the 18th, had activities for them. Air Med flew in and landed on the parking lot. The students got to visit with them. A lot of really good activities for those schools in southeastern Oklahoma. On February 22nd and 23rd, a couple of weeks ago, I was asked to come to Auburn University to attend the ABBY conference, the Accreditation Association for Universities. And so those present were all of the colleges across the United States that have been accredited to teach aviation or have aviation programs. They did ask me to be the keynote speaker at the meeting, which I was very honored to do that, and their words were, we need to know what's happening in Oklahoma, what's going on. So that made me very proud. They were very receptive to what we had to say. So that was a good opportunity for us. I might add on to that, I have since done 2 separate calls, one with the Department of Transportation in Minnesota, another in northern Alabama, all of them wanting to know about our work and how to maybe build an infrastructure that would help them move forward with aviation education to meet industry workforce needs, basically. 2 weeks ago on the weekend, we implemented our UAS 2-day teacher professional development at Oklahoma State. It was remarkable. Hats off to Dr. Jamie Jacob at OSU and his crew who built a program for our teachers. The teachers, because of the FAA 625 Workforce Development Grant, were able to spend 2 full days there. We lodged them, we fed them, we went to the unmanned airfield, they built a drone. It was a remarkable weekend, and we had 54 teachers from 47 high schools there. I think it laid some real groundwork as those schools move forward talking about unmanned aerial systems. And then finally, I might add that we have been continuing our work diligently to get the word out about the AOPA high school curriculum and about our grant program. As I spoke with AOPA last week, we stand at 74 schools getting ready to implement for next August. We were at 57 this past August, so I'm very proud that we are moving forward, continuing to move forward. I probably, by the cutoff period, will be at around 80 schools for next August as school begins. So I think that that's really good. Any comments or questions on that? And I know I do need to talk about our training then after that on the next item.
Well, I would just say that you continue to be a great ambassador for us, and I heard terrific things from Abby. And again, I mean, you put us on the map across the country. Thank you.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Super job, Paul.
Thank you. Any other questions? I think I'm still up on this one. I do want to just update you that we have been meeting regularly with AOPA. Elizabeth Tennyson, the executive director of the AOPA Foundation, was at the ABBY conference, so I got to visit with her at length. They will be coming to OU June 5 through 8 for the professional development program. Now, last year we had about 53 teachers there. This year we'll have 70, however many we end up having, will be at the training in June at the University of Oklahoma. OU Aviation has already offered them flights that first day, so the teachers will get to fly around Norman over the stadium and kick off the week that way. We also plan to still have a banquet that week that we hope that you will be able to attend as we continue to celebrate aviation education. I think that the growth, at this point, I am not the one calling anyone. They're calling us, and I think that that's remarkable. And I have 3 other appointments in the next couple of weeks at schools that still want to hear more. The application period closes May 31st, but most schools are already into pre-enrollment, so I think we'll dwindle down and then we'll start fresh next fall.
Do you have a date?
Yes, June 5 through 8. For the training, yes, June 5 through 8. Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
So, thanks, Paula. Next up, item 6, yes?
Motion to approve it.
Yes, that's right.
$5,000 sponsorship for your consideration to do the teacher professional development, item number 16
money.
before you.
Any questions about that? If not, do I hear a motion?
I move for approval.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega.
Aye.
Chairwoman Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Thank you.
Now,
Now, on to item 17. We talked about this last commission meeting about our partnership with the state of Virginia and some of the conversations have begun. I know Doug has briefed you all on some of his briefings about our conversations. We've been talking with the state of Virginia since before the pandemic, and I went back and looked at some emails, and I went, man, it was really 2019 when we first started chit-chatting about this. And as we know, advanced air mobility, unmanned aircraft systems is up and coming. One of the challenges that we have is how do we integrate UAS and AAM moving forward? A lot of people simply say, oh, that's FAA's responsibility, and FAA's kind of really looking at us and going, no, states and local governments, that's your responsibility. And so several states have stood up and said, hey, we're going to create systems to help integrate UAS into the NAS being the National Airspace System. In our conversation with the state of Virginia, they went forward and they set up a system called the Flight Information Exchange. And essentially what the Flight Information Exchange does, and I'll just kind of read here from a little couple of sentences. The Flight Information Exchange is a system for publishing and coordinating information about unmanned aircraft system operations that allows state, tribal, local government agencies, and private entities to publish information about critical and sensitive infrastructure, obstructions, ground rules, operational rules, and coordination for public safety systems. It allows the state of Oklahoma to provide AAM and other supplemental data to FAA, as well as to use that system for UAS operations on a regular basis, and enhances the safety and faster integration of UAS. One of the things we've seen in Oklahoma is we've had these other states. Obviously, we've got the Choctaw Nation doing some great things. We've got the Osage Nation in northeast Oklahoma doing some great things. But we don't have a statewide system in place. And so we have these pockets of energy and pockets of excitement about UAS and drones and everybody doing their own little part. And we want to be able to set something up as a state. Of course, we're not like the state of North Dakota, whose governor just requested $37 million to continue the Vantis program. That's on top of the other $100 million they've spent. We're not spending $100 million like the state of New York has spent. We're obviously being very frugal and fiscally responsible. And so we're going to try and backbone off of what Virginia has done. And Virginia has reached out to these other states to also create a system. If you know about the story of NASAO, our national association, we were in place before the FAA ever came about. And the states got together and said, hey, how can we create a national system of aviation so that when you go from Oklahoma to Kansas, we're not doing aviation different? Obviously, FAA came into play in the 60s, but that is what Virginia is looking to do, is create some systems that can be used across the states that hopefully will be integrated and help UAS in those individual states move forward. So Virginia's partnered with Alaska, North Carolina, Central California, a section of Ohio, and are currently partnering with Pennsylvania to move forward on a flight information exchange system. Given our study, our research, some of the background information, talking with partners in Tulsa, talking with Oklahoma State University, we believe this is probably the best bang for our buck to move forward with. And so what we're proposing today is to move forward and enter into a memorandum of agreement with the state of Virginia and to have them implement this system here in Oklahoma. I think it will be a much cheaper process than having to go create our own system. I know Virginia itself spent several $1 million standing this up over the last 5 years. And so right now what we're looking at is a 3-year agreement, so 3 one-year options to stand this up to really help our airports, help our UAS, and help aviation overall. Cost of that's going to be about $100,000 a year, and I think that is going to be some good ROI and will lead us down paths that we never even knew were thought possible on the UAS and AAM front. And Oklahoma needs some good PR. We need some good PR on the UAS and AAM front, and so I think this will be the first step in the right direction to using the opportunities that we can have with this system as it gets developed. And Commissioner Hunter, I know you and I've had conversations going back to, man, these drones flying around Sundance, and how do we stop them? How do we prevent them from doing that? I think this is the crawl, walk, run. This is the crawl stage. If we can identify those sensitive areas, have voluntary participation in the system from those drone operators, I think the next step on down the road may be some regulatory enforcement and how do we go about solving some of those problems that you and I have talked about over the years. So staff recommends approval, and I'll stand for any questions or comments.
Any questions? What I hear you say is if we were to go down that road by ourselves, it would be much more time-consuming and costly to know what they know at this point.
Correct. I think if we were to go down the route ourselves, we're looking at least 12 months just to figure out what we're going to do. And then we're looking at a significantly increased cost to, similar to probably what Virginia had to do when they were standing up their system 5 years ago.
So this is primarily to fund their system coming into our state?
Correct. I don't want to call it software because that's not what it is, but if you can think about either you can go develop your own software, or you can buy some existing software off the shelf. Now, I won't say it's not like it's just a simple plug-and-play system. The main work effort here will be to map out all of our sensitive sites in the state of Oklahoma. So all of our airports, our critical infrastructure, are there parks people aren't supposed to fly over with their drones? Are there sensitive utility sites? The Cushing oil tank storage farm, for example. Map all those out over the next 12 to 24 months to use this in the system. And so not only does this have benefits for UAS, but I can also see it having benefits for manned aircraft too. If, for example, an ag operator is going to be flying in low-level areas of western Oklahoma, and there happens to be some UAS testing going on over there, that's going to give them an alert saying, hey, provided everybody uses the system as they're supposed to, there's going to be some operations there you want to look at in your low-altitude environment. So it's hopefully going to be a very collaborative aviation safety project. The first step, though, is mapping out all those sensitive sites. So if this is approved, the first step will be reaching out to those communities, those counties, those entities throughout the state of Oklahoma saying, hey, what are your sensitive UAS infrastructure sites that you have out there, and how best do you want to go about representing those in this system so that we can all start playing in a role with UAS as it starts moving about more frequently, whether it's deliveries, public safety, or simple aerial photography. It'll be used all across the world, all across the state, and hopefully at some point all across the country if other states are able to implement it as we expect.
Any other questions? If not,
Wouldn't it be simpler to just put a tracking device on, and pass into state law that any drone has to have a tracking transmitter?
We would not be allowed to do that as a state. That when you were
The
putting
state legislature can't do that?
no, when you're putting things on aircraft, that's a requirement of the FAA. That's a specific.
Even though it's a drone?
Even though it's a drone, correct.
Because the problem isn't 2-ton military drones. The problem is 50-pound toys.
Right.
Invading airspace where humans' lives are hanging in the balance.
I understand. Supreme Court and FAA argues, and Congress passed law that said anything that flies in the nation's airspace is considered an aircraft, whether it's a 5-pound toy or a 5-ton C-17, or more than 5 tons, but you get the point, 5-ton aircraft.
A little bit
Big.
more.
Little more. 50-ton C-17.
Because a $100 GPS tracking device mandated to be on every one of these things would solve the problem real fast.
And there are
You can pull
some.
up on screen and see exactly what's where.
Yep, and there are those conversations that are being had at the national level of how can we track those drones using ADS-B, which we know what ADS-B is currently. I know Commissioner Putnam knows what ADS-B is, and that's a conversation at the federal level. The question is,
IDSB gear is a little bit heavy, but
well, yeah, and they're trying to shrink ADS-B down to something that could be attached to a small aircraft or a small drone, an example. The question is, there still isn't anything at the state level from a mapping perspective that identifies where those concerning areas are. And so we can go put all these tracking systems in place, but if there's no map that says here's where you're supposed to be and not be, how are those drones going to be able to know whether it can and can't operate?
with that $99 tracking device that weighs less than 10 ounces that I already have the software to do that.
Gotcha.
US Fleet.
Yes, I understand.
It's not expensive.
I understand. Certainly a good system.
It just seems like for technology that costs $29 a month, they're trying to reinvent a wheel with hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. Seems kind of silly or foolish.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
any other questions? If not, do I hear a motion?
I move for approval on 17.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega.
Aye.
Chairwoman Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Thank you.
Welcome. Next is item 18, administrative rules for OAC. Michelle?
Yes. Good morning, Madam Chair. Good afternoon at this point, Commissioners. The item before you is going to be for approval of the permanent rules, which will incorporate the recently adopted emergency rules. If you'll look behind item 18 in your packet, it's going to actually list, all the changes, underscores and such that we're doing to the rules. It's taking everything we did on emergency, plus as we were doing this chapter, we went ahead and just really thoroughly scrubbed it. So there's some grammatical edits in there. There's a couple additional changes where we've incorporated specific sponsor match requirements, outline that, so there's not any question of any sort as to what their requirement is. If you'd like, I could kind of list it a little bit, but we've included terminal building projects with the increased share. The Commission's cost share level of participation on hangar construction projects is listed with the increased amount, and the not to exceed cap was removed, which is allowing us to spend more on these greater cost projects. The fuel system construction projects are now listed as eligible, which was listed in the emergency rules. And the Commission can now provide those 100% funding levels for the PREP funds that was directed by the legislature. So those are going to be the changes we have there, and staff, I'll stand for any questions. Staff recommends approval.
Questions? Comments?
Absolutely.
This is just the final step, as I recall, isn't
It
it?
is.
Right.
We did hold a public comment period and hearing, and there were no questions, no
Right.
suggestions of any sort.
Well, I applaud you because these processes are never easy. They're a pain.
No, it takes about 18 months.
Yeah, but you got to do it.
It's strictly the underlined items, correct?
Yes, or strike through. 6 and 7, pages 6 and 7 are going to be the predominant changes.
Bulk of it.
Prior to that, there was a definition added for the sponsor match. There is also a change for the FAA National Priority Rating System. They changed their order number, so we made a correction on that. Other than that, beyond page 7 is going to be grammatical changes.
Looks pretty straightforward.
On the cost share,
Yes, sir.
were those increases statutorily, was the legislature, did the legislature move those, or is this something that we're
No, the
doing
legislature
internally?
did for the PREP funding, but as far as raising our cap to, or our not to exceed to 40% and 70% on the hangar, that was a commission, a staff recommendation based on current cost trends, that sort of thing.
One of the things that we had seen and heard from the airport community was that given the increased cost of hangars, having the extra 10% would be very helpful. These rules you see here are simply the permanent version of the emergency that's already been passed and approved back in the fall.
I don't have a problem. Changes
Okay.
that I'm-
Okay.
I'm good, too.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega.
Aye.
Chairwoman Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Thank you.
So Michelle.
Sanford today.
Yes. Review of upcoming aviation and aerospace events.
We are, and on March 22nd is our next annual Aero Day at the Capitol. We will be there from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. with over 50 exhibitors and companies. The General Assembly will begin at 10 a.m. on the second floor with Governor Kevin Stitt, Speaker McCall, Secretary Gatz is going to be there, many others recognizing aviation and aerospace in the state. We would love to have you guys there. You're welcome to join one of our panels, walk around, meet with some of the legislators. If you're interested in that, if you will let Sandra know, she will get you on a team. Other than that, a few of the upcoming local events. There is going to be a OPA flyaway at Reba's Place in Atoka on March 11th. Enid Woodring is having a fly-in on March 18th. There is an annual runway fun run at TASM. That's going to be on March 25th. And then Stillwater Regional is having a fly-in on April 1st. And so there is a list of all those events up there on the podium for you. And that is going to be all that I have.
Thank you. And we're moving to item 20. I will entertain any concluding remarks. Everything good? Up here? Everything good? And I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a next meeting date?
Yes, we do. It is going to be April the 10th.
Because that is a Monday meeting. Don't know if we've ever had a Monday meeting before in the history of the Aeronautics Commission.
Keep us on our
Keeping you on your toes.
Toes,
Yes.
toes.
Yes.
And Director, just to make sure, no new business, nothing else to? Okay, all right. Any other last comments? If not, I will entertain a motion.
I move for adjournment.
Second.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Phillips.
Aye.
Commissioner Ortega.
Aye.
Chairwoman Ritz.
Aye.
Commissioner Putnam.
Aye.
Commissioner Hunter.
Aye.
Thank you.
I declare this meeting adjourned.